So this is week 7 of my learning journey, and the objective for this week is to publish my Google site, and where I can integrate different things like Google Docs, Google Slides, and then examples of my reflections. The resources that I used this week was one main resource. I found that this resource was very extensive, and it gave a lot of examples and a lot of different step-by-step instructions. So I did implement the trying it strategy and the reading and rereading strategy, as well as doing and exploring at the same time. So I would read the content on the site, and then I would also try it out when I was creating my site. So the accomplishments for this week is actually creating and launching my site. So this is the actual link to my site that I already created and published, but I want to go over just some steps that I did. This is where I got the resources from in the site that I used. And then in each one of the steps, it gave me additional resources. And then it also provided steps on what to do in each portion of creating the site. So, from naming and creating subsections and embedding links, inserting pictures, and all of those tasks were gathered from this site. So as I created my site, I went ahead and inserted some text. I inserted some pictures, picture of myself. Um, I did also add a project page. I wanted to make sure that everything was neatly organized so it could be accessible. And then I embedded my reflection videos within that project page, and then I also included some artifacts. So links to my Google Slides that I practiced in, my Google Docs, the form, and a link to my Google Meets. And then I did two things with the reflections. I linked them as part of the headers, and I also created individual links for the reflections. And then lastly, I went ahead and I published my site. So um, on the beginning part of this section is the actual link. So if you once I share the link, it's on there. It takes you directly to the site. So here on the site, uh, like I mentioned earlier, I created it and I embedded everything in here. On the top right hand corner is the projects page and then my reflections page. So on the projects page, this is where I embedded the weekly videos, my weekly objectives, um, for each of the weeks. And then uh, on my reflection, for each of the weeks, as well as the artifacts. So here's the artifact for my Google document that I tried out, my artifact for my presentation, and you can see it's directly embedded into the site, so you can see all aspects of the presentation. And then I also did my practice form that I created, embedded it in there. And then I added the links to my Jamboard, my links to my Google Classroom, and my Google Meet link. So everything that I wanted to do, I was able to accomplish and embed everything in there. So my weekly reflections, so these can be accessed two ways, right? I went ahead and I embedded them all in this page, or you can do the drop down. So if I click here, it'll take us to week 1 reflection. Or if I do the drop down, it can take us to week 2 reflection. So overall, the page looks, to my understanding, looks very well. It's easy to manage, easy to navigate. It has all the components that I wanted it to have. My projects page is organized, and so are my reflections. So in this last reflection for this week, I talk about, let me put it on my website. So on this last reflection for this week, I talk about my learning journey, how I went through a lot of, parts in each week and learning about different lifelong learning traits. And overall, I felt that when I published my site, that gave me a lot of motivation to continue to persist and move forward. And going through the journey is very self fulfilling, because I was able to accomplish my overall goal of publishing my site. Um, and not only publishing the site, but also being able to document everything that I did, everything that I went through, as far as my reflective videos, and then, of course, publishing all on my site. So I feel very accomplished. I'm very proud of what I did. And I look forward to continue to learn about different aspects of the Google platform.